Good morning, everyone. Welcome once more into our podcast today, the Aurum podcast, where all matters as regards HR are discussed. Today, I'm very glad to be with you. My name is Anthony Kuria. I'll be your host. And with me is Zipporah Kuria. Zipporah, how are you?
I'm good, thank you, Anthony. Good morning, our viewers, and welcome to this podcast.
Yes, and we also have our regular contributor, a friend of ours, Martha Thuku, the HR expert. Welcome, Martha.
Good morning, viewers, and welcome to this podcast.
Thank you. Now, as you all know, Aurum Podcasts is all about HR and HR-related issues, and Aurum Consultants is the sponsor of this program, and we are glad to be able to be with you. We handle matters regarding HR and even risk as relates to HR. Today and this week, we have been talking lots about the significance of employee engagement. We want to know more. We want to understand, how do you engage employees better? You have them coming in your office. You as an employee, you go to the office every morning. So how are you engaged? Or do you just go because you have a duty to fulfill and then go home and wonder what you are doing? So last week we began the topic. We began the issue, discussing about employee engagement. And this week we brought Martha, who is a HR and admin manager with LVCT Health. LVCT Health is an NGO that handles matters that handle issues regarding mental health, and they're very big in issues to do with mental health and advisory and counseling. And Martha, there where you are, I'm sure you have quite a number of staff that you have to take care of them and issues and making sure that they're engaged. And today we want to pick your brain on that issue. Now, Martha, I want to ask you the first question. Let's get into it. Tell me, what are the benefits of employee engagement?
Okay, thank you, Tony, for that good question. And maybe to recap a bit, is good to remind people what employee engagement is all about.
Sure.
From my view, it has to do with mental and emotional connection that employees feel towards A, their organization, B, their teams, and even the work they do. So there's a writer in business that I love reading his comments, and one of the comments he said is how employee engagement is how you create an environment in which employees give their best each day. So quickly, as we go to the benefits of employee engagement, one of them, and ZP will help me with these ones, you will find when employees are engaged, there's increased productivity. This has even been researched, and there was a research that was done on some CEOs of top organizations, and they were able to say that engaged employees are likely to be very productive. You also find that there's higher staff retention because you find most staff have no reason to look elsewhere. So the staff turnover is low. And then you can imagine when a staff is happy, then even their customer service will be good. So that means happy customers. So, and my final one maybe would be engaged employees really want to turn up for work, especially where the mission and the vision is clear. So there will be very minimum absenteeism. That's what I can contribute, and I can give ZP to add and for what I have said.
All right. Thank you, Martha. That already has set a good tone. ZP, what's your take on the same?
Thank you, Anthony. And I think Mother has captured it very well. When employees are engaged, for sure, there'll be high productivity. And one of the things is with engaged employees, there's always a sense of belonging. There's a sense of I belong here. I want to be here. I'm not forced to be here. I love coming to work every day. And where you find employees are engaged, again, you find the employee turnover is not very high. You find employees actually want to stay there longer because they're engaged and they're seeing the future of the business, they're seeing the future of the company, they're seeing their growth in terms of their professionalism. So you find there's a lot of benefits when employees are engaged, not just for the employer, but also for the employees themselves, because no one wants to wake up and go to an organization where they don't feel happy working there. So it's important when employees are engaged, they know I belong here, they know what their purpose is, and they're working towards that purpose. Mother has talked about absenteeism. When employees are not engaged, the downside of it is you find there's a lot of reasons for them not to come to work. So you will find some of them are getting sick when they are not necessarily sick, or they are getting absent to go and do their own side hustles. They are getting absent to go and do many other things. So you find this affects productivity at the end of the day. So it's important for us as business people, as HR people to, to ensure our employees are getting engaged so that again we can reap the benefits of it.
All right. That is, the way the two of you have put it across, it's really a mental gear that comes in when you go to work, that you are mentally present, and not just mentally present to be there, but mentally present, ready to go on the offensive in terms of giving your best. I'm sure all of us, including our listeners, know this. You go to a place to be served, either it's a shop, a supermarket, or it's a bank. You've gone to, you've gone to a hospital, and you can tell, you can tell. You can excuse one time when you go the first time and somebody is not quite there. But if you go there several times and the attitude does not change, then it means there's an issue with employee engagement. Either this staff is not there, either they have issues at home and they're unable to separate them from there, or where they are working, the environment is not good enough. So you meet them there, you're wondering, every morning, what's the problem? So now I want to bring the second question, the second thing that comes to my mind. What are the top drivers of employee engagement? Probably, Martha, you can give us a brief on the same. What are the top drivers? What causes, what causes the brain to get into gear when it comes to employee engagement?
So, from what I think, the top drivers of employee engagement could be, one of them is concerning leadership, and when they feel that leadership values people
Yes.
as the most important resource in the organization.
Mm-hmm.
Also, the engagement is driven where an employee feels that their opinion counts.
Mm-hmm.
They also feel engaged when they normally would feel engaged when they have the full information of what they need to do.
Yes.
And even when they find their job interesting and challenging.
Mm-hmm.
Also, maybe before ZP comes in, I can add on senior leadership. Employees, it's a driver of employee engagement because when they demonstrate integrity, and so an employee can trust the leadership to drive the organization to the next level. And I can give ZP an opportunity to add on.
Yes, ZP, what's your take?
Thank you, Martha, for that, and thank you, Anthony. I think when we talk about the drivers for employee engagement, I think we have to look at the different stakeholders that will be involved in ensuring that there's engagement. And Martha has talked about the management, and I would say also for the employees themselves, they also have to tune in their mind, their emotions, engage with employees. I always say as an employee, when you go and look for an opportunity in an organization, there's what you're looking for. And no one can drive you to do what it is that you need to do. You need to be able to drive yourself in the first place. So even before we start telling the employer, you need to find ways of engaging these employees. As an employee, what are you doing to ensure you're engaged? Are you looking for the right opportunity? Sometimes we make the mistakes of looking for a job just to put food on the table. And what happens when we get to that job, we realize it's not what I want to do. I'm not happy here. And you disengage. And in the process, as an employee, you actually affect other employees who end up being disengaged unnecessarily. So you actually become a bad apple in the midst of good apples. So I would say from an employee perspective, it's important for you to know what it is that you want from this job. Now, when we look at the job again from an employer's perspective or from an HR perspective, it's important for us to ensure employees actually understand what it is that they're supposed to be doing. They understand what is the expectation. Because when we don't lay out expectations clearly, then the employee might not know what they're supposed to be doing, or they might do and not do it well. And this will mean they might be disengaged at some point because they're not clear about whatever the objectives are. Mother has alluded to leadership. Again, we need to cast out the vision in terms of ensuring employees understand where the organization is going.
Yes.
Understand what this organization stands for. Because if you don't give them the framework for them to understand where they belong in that organization, then engagement is going to be a bit of a challenge. The other thing I will talk about is recognition. Are we recognizing our employees when they've done something well? Again, it's important for us to recognize when someone has done an excellent job, when they've done something well. It's important for us to recognize that. Sometimes it doesn't have to be recognized by rewarding and all that. Sometimes even a word of encouragement is recognition. Them understanding someone is actually having an eye on what I'm doing, and they are recognizing and they're appreciating what I'm doing. So there's a lot of things actually that are top drivers in terms of employee engagement, that they are symbols that we can practice on a daily basis to ensure that our teams are engaged.
Wow, ladies, if I hope somebody somewhere is writing down what you ladies are saying, because I am writing down, and I'm really, I'm starting to see it. And I hope to our listeners, you send in your question and comments. We would love to hear your experience on the ground. If you're a HR manager, if you're a GM, general manager, if you're an entrepreneur running your business, how does what these HR experts are saying, correlate with what is happening on the ground? If you're an employee, you're employed, does this resonate? So kindly send in your questions and comments. We would love to highlight them, even discuss them. So please go ahead. If you're tuned in, send in your questions and comments. We would love to highlight them.
Allow me. I have something that just came to my mind. And this again from an employee's perspective. For you to be engaged, you also must believe in what that company does. If you don't believe in what they do and buy into what they do, then it will actually be very difficult for you to be engaged. And I think it goes back to what I said. Sometimes we look for a job because we want to put bread on the table. But we also need to be proud of being associated with that company we are working for. Because the moment you buy in and you get associated to it, then it becomes very easy for you to blend in and basically move with the rest of the team on what they are doing.
Very true. That is very true.
Maybe I can add to Zippy, especially for the employee part. We find in our country, you might find that you are landing a job really, like Zippy has said, just to put bread on the table. But you might find, should you go there keenly with a positive attitude, it is very easy to blend in and get engaged, and you find you have even some inner talent that you didn't even know you have by doing this different thing, and you can contribute to that organization. Then you find what you went to school for is really not what you are doing now. It's making sense to you than what you went to school for. Because if you find our people who are finishing campus now, when they finish Form 4, they are called because of what they qualified for. That's the career or the university will call them for. And maybe that's not what you wanted. Someone wanted to be a doctor, a nurse, but they failed in sciences. So they are called for something different. So the attitude applies for engagement. So the management will be doing so much.
Yes.
But if you sit there thinking you're doing the wrong thing, you're in the wrong place, you'll never be engaged and you will never get even motivated to work in that organization. So it's also the major part. The player also is the member of staff. Thank you.
Wow. Ladies, now, sasa nimeishiwa na space ya kuandika. I'm writing so many points. I like the way you have put it across. I like the way you have brought it across. Issues to do with the leadership, drivers of engagement, leadership. If you're a manager here, remember you are a motivator. Beyond everything else, you're a motivator. Valuing of opinions, clarity of JD, job description, things to do with having an interesting and challenging work. Yeah. I remember one time nilikuwa nimetafuta kazi kama a casual laborer. I went to industrial area to work night shift. And we were in a factory making soap. Those 12 hours, first of all, you have deprived yourself sleep. And then now you are working on a factory machine. Your work is just to pack soap. Now I understand why they use robots. Because by 2 in the morning, I was wondering, God, this is terrible. This is absolutely, it was beyond the mechanical. Out of Adali, even it's better to do, shamba work. Because at least you will dig up a root somewhere, you will find something, you will find worms, you will do what, I know there are people who work in factories. I'm not saying that working in a factory is wrong, but for me at that time, it was, by the time it was in the morning, I was extremely sleepy. I was bored to death. You've got to get something engaging and interesting and challenging. Yeah. And then there's issues of self-motivation. I like the way you've put it across, Martha. There has to be a willingness. Why did you wake up to go to work? As you say, if you love what you're doing and you're doing it well, then you will be engaged. You will come here. I like the situations where, like now at Aurum Consultants, where sometimes we get our staff asking us interesting questions about seeing things being done differently. Now that shows somebody who is self-motivated. That shows somebody who is engaged. That shows somebody who can, even without knowing, push their boss, the founder, the director, even to see things differently. So drivers of engagement are many. They come from exterior, external sources. They also come from within. Now, the question would be, I'm sure somebody's watching and wondering, what are some of the indicators of engaged employees? Yes, I think engaged employees. Yes, Zippy, I'll ask you that one. What are some of the indicators of an employee who is with it?
Wow. I think it's one thing to know the impact of an engaged employee, and another one to know, what are the indicators and what needs to be done to ensure that employees are engaged. And I would say one of the indicators would be something like open communication, where there's communication between employees and their managers, employees and their bosses, where employees are not just discussing things about amongst themselves, but they are also bringing things to the fore where issues needs to be addressed. So I would say one of the indicators of an engaged employee is when there are challenges, they are able to actually look at these things very objectively and bring them to the fore and come up with solutions that would help the organization. The other indicator I'm thinking about would be positive experience for other employees, and ensuring you're working with other team members and ensuring that there's that positive engagement between team members. And I think once you see team members working together, team members resolving problems together, team members seeking opinion of their colleagues, then you start realizing my teams are actually engaged in what they are doing. Like you've just said earlier, when an employee is asking questions, they are keen to know, how do I do this? They are keen to understand, how can this be done differently? You realize this employee is actually tuned into what is actually happening within that organization.
Martha, what's your take?
Yes, thanks, ZP. And maybe I can add the inspired teams and leaders. Let me talk about leaders. I don't know if you're like me, you have worked in organizations where you find some leaders do not want to put their people first. There's some leaders who are very insecure. So if the employee is doing better than them, then they feel like they are going to lose their job. So they never put people first. So an indicator of an engaged employees is where leaders don't have that fear. They are people who put people first, even to inspire the team. So they are not working for themselves; they are working for the team. And then with this engagement, then you find even their driving commitment to the organization. So there's pride in the job. So you find that there are some organizations staff don't even want to put the staff badge. So, yes, they don't want even to be associated with that organization. But when employees are engaged, you'll find they have pride in their job and they are committed to the organization. They are motivated. So you'll, even if you visit there, you'll be able to pick up those indicators, and you're able to know, if you're keen, you're able to know these guys are engaged. There's employee engagement happening here. Thank you so much.
Wow. Yeah. Martha, you brought up the issue of staff being ashamed. If today you're working at Nairobi City Mortuary, I would understand. You don't want to put your staff badge, I work with, this morgue somewhere. I mean, that's understandable. I mean, there are certain, and then there are also what is more regular, considered more regular jobs where you're working with a bank, you're working with a manufacturer, and if for whatever reason you're not willing to be identified with them, then there's a problem. Either the owner of the company needs to find out, or the directors need to find out why is it that we have a bad DR, or it could be the staff themselves feel, Huku, we are transiting. We are just here for the season, make money, move on. So there's no point of me showing where I work from and all that. So that also indicates something to do with brand equity on the owner, or on the person, the management, the directors, the ownership. So it's good that you brought that issue of ownership and being seen. Yes, Martha, there's something you want to say.
No, I'm good. I'm good with that one. Yeah.
Yes, or
I
is it?
actually wanted to add on something, Anthony.
Yes.
I think the other key indicator of an engaged employee, and I think this is very common and very critical for employers, is when employees meet their goals and actually exceed expectations. And I think that goes without saying that, it's a number one expectation of the employer, but it's also a key indicator of an engaged employee, because employees who are not engaged, chances are they don't meet their goals, and there's always chances of them giving reasons why they didn't, giving excuses, and looking for scapegoats why this did not happen. So an employee who is engaged, and this would be a really great indicator, would be an employee actually who gets their work done and they exceed those expectations. And the other thing actually to add on to that is also professional development. Sometimes you go into an organization, you probably starting very from the bottom of the cadre. But again, there's a lot of opportunities into that organization. And now you get to also know that this employee is engaged is because they are working towards their professional development as employees, as human beings. They are working towards being better people. And you start seeing them growing actually within the organization. And that is also a key indicator. When you start seeing these employees getting promoted and being given more responsibility, it shows this employee is actually engaged.
And ZP, I can add that for ZP, especially the target, the goal setting, the performance exceeding. For engaged employees, you'll find such organizations, they work towards having the employees own their own goals.
Yes.
And that's why we really, in HR, we really stress on this issue of coaching, inculcating the culture of coaching in the organization, so that helps the employee produce whatever power they have within. They own their own goals. They know when they are not doing well. They know when they are doing well. So at the end of the day, it's not you're not going to follow them up. They know what they are there for. They know they want to exceed. So owning the targets, owning the performance, even when you are evaluating such an employee, they'll be able to quickly tell you, by the way, here I did well, here I didn't do well. So it's not the manager who will bring up the issues. You find that employee is so engaged. They know what they're supposed to do, and they know where they have not done well. Yeah, that's what I wanted to add. Thank you.
Thank you, Martha. That tells you very clearly that being engaged is demonstrated in very, very many ways. To our viewers and listeners, if you would like to connect with us, our email address, our connecting email address is at the bottom of the screen. You can connect with us either by email, by LinkedIn, by Facebook, you can by YouTube. You can always get in touch with us if you'd like to know more about Aurum Consultants or what we discuss here at the podcast. If you have podcasts you heard about in the past and you'd like to know more about what we discussed, we are always free to engage with you. Now, our time is really going. I want to bring the role of HR in employee engagement. Martha, I will start. Let me ask you, what is the role of HR in employee engagement?
HR is the beginning and end of an organization. So they kind of take ownership of everything relating to employees.
Yes.
Even from the time of recruitment, performance management, even all around employee experience for the organization. So for employee engagement, HR then takes ownership of every employee engagement initiative that is happening within the organization. Sure. It is the HR that will hold the teams accountable, because then if they don't do these follow-ups, you will find most managers are so engaged with whatever they do. They are technically strong. So HR is the one who is the driver of whatever initiatives for engagement are happening. So they kind of work behind the scenes to ensure everything is running smoothly and managing day-to-day engagement affairs in the organization. Thank you.
Wow. All right. Zippy, what's your take on the role of HR in all these issues?
Thank you, Anthony. I think Martha has put it very well that HR is actually the one who holds the whole thing together. And without HR, sometimes you face a lot of challenges, because HR needs to make sure the teams are actually running what needs to be run when it comes to the employee engagement. And I think the other role an HR can do is also have champions who will partner with them to help them make sure whatever activities that have been put to play to help in employee engagement, they're happening. And HR cannot be everywhere. Take an organization that has 300 or 500 people. I mean, how many people can you manage effectively? Maybe maximum 10. So for you to be able to manage the whole team, because you're not just managing a section of it, you need to work with key stakeholders, and these are probably your managers. So as an HR, how do you bring these teams together and make sure whatever is happening in terms of employee engagement is happening uniformly across the whole organization? And I think that's the only way you'll be able to achieve success. I think also the other role of an HR is to also help the teams, in as much as management will help us understand what the vision and the mission is. I think HR is also a great champion in helping teams understand this is the vision, the mission of the organization. And this also drives the KPIs. This also drives, the deliverables. It drives so many other things. So there's a lot that actually the HR holds to make sure things are running. And I always say HR is the glue to any organization. When you don't have a functional HR department or HR person, you will always run into trouble, not just with employees, but also in terms of how you want to achieve your own vision. So I would actually encourage employers, even those who don't have necessarily employers, that's why we are here today, and you can reach out to us to support you. You need HR people to help you hold your organization together and help you drive your vision to, going forward.
Wow, there is a Hapo. You've put it very well. The issue of HR, and as you are speaking, both of you, I'm remembering my early experience in the work life. I was engaged in my first employment was in the banking industry, and back then it was called the personnel department. It was an issue of getting this product to go there, getting that person. It was very abstract. It was very abstract. It was very mechanical, where you had, obviously, when you're getting employed, HR, as Zippy has said, HR is the one that receives you, or personnel. They receive you. Hey, Anthony, what's your name? Your ID. You'll get your PIN. Blah blah blah. You're going to X department, X branch. You go there, you no longer hear about HR or personnel. The only other time is when the evaluations or there is a misdemeanor. Now they come in. I mean, it was very abstract. It was very cold. It was very cold. I remember by the time I was moving 1, 2, 3 jobs, I was thinking, HR, wow, these people, I don't want to deal with it. It's only now later, when now the metamorphosis of HR, I mean, from personnel to become HR, and now the profession started changing, at least in the country. And now I started seeing the difference. I started engaging with HR a bit more. The process that Zippy has just described, the HR being a glue to hold the company together. The last bank I worked in, that's when I really saw that. I could see the HR department, the way it was engaged with departments, the way HR would link with people in various sections, people in retail, people in corporate, people in credit, people in this and that, and get the heads to understand this is where the company is going, this is how we are dealing, how the company is engaged with its employees, and this is what we want to see. Now that's when I started seeing what the benefits, the change, the difference, the issues of understanding what is the company's vision and mission. We could get pamphlets telling us, memorize this. This is our mission, this is our vision. Ushike. Na ukikosa kushika, when the MD comes and asks you the question and you are not able to answer, you will be brought to us to facilitate your exit. I mean, it was very interesting. Yeah, and we thank God for that. I thank you, Shali Nyamori. Shali has asked a question here. Probably we can answer this before we go. She has asked, how does HR make sure that they are not in conflict with the vision of the organization? Kizungumkuti hapo. Martha, you are the sharp end. Tell us.
So even as the HR is a driver of the vision of the organization.
Sure.
So being in conflict, then I'm not sure how the HR would come into conflict, because then they are the ones who are supposed to sell that vision and mission to the rest of the team.
Yes.
So how they will not come into conflict is, first of all, constantly reminding themselves about the vision and the mission, and then constantly reminding others that this is what this organization is about.
Yes.
And if you find yourself in conflict, then it means you're not supporting that organization, and it's good you exit, because you can't be in conflict with what you are working towards. That's how I would answer that question.
Yeah, that is very true, Martha. You cannot be, if the vision of the company, for example, if today you're working with a brewer or a cigarette manufacturer and you apply for a job there as the HR and you get it, and their vision is to expand sales to the ends of the earth. So the question is, are you working with them? Or, you apply at, let's say, a cigarette manufacturer. Let me use one of the big brands here in Kenya. You work there as the HR. Either you follow or you leave if you don't like what they're doing. And it doesn't have to be cigarette or alcohol. It could be anything. It could be It could be the issue of, say, you're working with an NGO that is promoting things that you think are not right. Reproductive health, they're probably promoting things that are pro-choice. If you're the HR, I mean, if you don't like that, please, there are other opportunities. Zippy, what do you say as we close?
Thank you, Anthony, and thank you, Mother, for that. And I think it's good for us to understand HR, their responsibility is actually to drive the people in the organization and make sure the people in the organization are working pretty well. And like Mother has said, if you don't believe in the vision of the organization, there's no way you'll be able to drive that vision as an HR. And one of the things that HR should do is to ensure their HR strategy actually is in tandem with the organization strategy. If there are gaps in the HR strategies vis-a-vis what the organization wants to do, then you might find actually there will be conflict. You might find there will be challenges because their strategy is different. So HRs also need to understand that they need to drive their strategy and how they're going to drive this organization from the major strategy that the organization has put in place. I think that would be my take from that question.
Wow. Thank you, ladies. I can see we're coming towards the end. Thank you, Ndongo Wawangombe, for your compliments. We appreciate them. Unfortunately, Bwana Ndongo, I can see you've sent another question. I don't know whether we'll be able to handle it today, but we are doing so next week. We are still continuing with this topic of employee engagement. So Bwana Ndongo's question, I will make sure that we handle it in next week's podcast. We will try and handle it. I can see Zippy is asking me something here. Bwana Ndongo is saying, is HR the driver or oversight of the organization strategy? Zippy, you've decided to handle this. Take it up.
But I don't have the monopoly of knowledge here, and that's why we welcome comments and input even from our viewers. But from where I sit, I think number one, they are the driver, right? So if you are going to drive something, you have to oversee actually what is happening. So you can't drive and not oversee. So you actually play both roles. Of course, in terms of coming up with a strategy, there's a lot of key stakeholders that are involved, and the HR happens to be one of those key stakeholders.
One of them.
So actually, they understand the organization strategy from top there, and to them actually coming up now with the HR strategy to drive whatever needs to happen. So from where I sit, I would say they are both the driver, but they also have to oversee what is happening.
All right. Thank you. Mother, you have something to add?
Yeah, and I like what Zippy has said. Maybe we need to remember the HR strategy is actually a branch of the overall strategy. So how does HR then give oversight of the organization strategy? I think by also leading the teams in performance management. Remember, every team has a part in that strategy. That strategy is cascaded down to various teams at every level, including the T person, the office assistant down there. But at the end of the day, there's these key indicators that you must bring in to make sure this strategy comes to be. And these indicators are that they are the ones that you're going to be measured with. So HR drives the organization strategy, but by ensuring that the performance targets are smart.
Yes.
They are measurable, they are time bound. I forget the whole meaning of SMART.
Yes.
Yeah, but it's the HR who has to ensure that happens, because then they are able to meet the objective of the strategy is met through the performance management and the performance target set for each person in the organization, from the executive to the office assistant. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you, ladies. Today we've had a wonderful engagement. We've discussed issues that relate to employees. How do they engage? What is the role of the management? What's the role of the employees themselves? Thank you, Catherine Nanjala. Thank you for your comment there. I like the fact that you've said that an acceptable level of employee autonomy also enhances employee engagement. That is very true. You cannot be micromanaging people every day. I mean, day in, day out. They have to be left to a place where they have autonomy and responsibility and accountability. we have come to the end of our podcast today. We appreciate all those that have logged in to listen to us. As we've said earlier, you can follow us. You can always follow us on Facebook, on YouTube, and on LinkedIn. You can send your comments, queries through our email, consult@aurumconsultants.com, and you can always get in touch with us by phone. We appreciate you, Martha, for coming in. Thank you for your wonderful insights. It's always a pleasure to have you together with us in these matters. And next week, same time, same place, we will be on part 3 of employee engagement, where we'll understand even more insights as to how to get you as an employee and you as an employer both working together to meet your targets. So till next week, stay safe, stay whole, and God bless you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.